Picture this. It's Thanksgiving Eve, 1971. A man hijacks a Boeing 727, grabs a whole bunch of cash, and then poof. He does something you only see in movies. He literally vanishes into thin air. This is the absolutely wild story of America's only unsolved skyjacking.
Okay, just try to imagine this for a second. You're up at 10,000 feet, the wind is just howling outside, you're flying right through a storm, and it is pitch black. You've got a bag strapped to you with like 20 pounds of cash. Could you actually do it? Could you make that jump?
And just disappear without a trace? Well, believe it or not, one man, the guy we all know as DB Cooper, seems to have pulled off exactly that. All right, so let's set the scene here. We're on a short little flight, just 30 minutes, from Portland to Seattle on Northwest Orient. It's not a full flight at all, only 36 passengers. And one of them, this quiet-looking guy in a business suit, he's sitting all the way in the back. And he has a plan that is about to make him an absolute legend.
So right after takeoff, he passes a note to one of the flight attendants. And, she kind of thinks he's hitting on her, so she just slips it into her pocket. But then he leans in, super calm, and says, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." And just like that, he opens his briefcase, and she sees this mess of red cylinders and wires. It looked real. And just a few hours later, this same guy would leap from that very plane right into American folklore.
So the big question is, how on earth did he pull this off so perfectly? Well, it wasn't random. It all came down to a plan that was super methodical, really specific, and just eerily calm. His demands get relayed to the cockpit, and they were crystal clear. He wanted $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, 2 front, 2 back, a fuel truck waiting for them in Seattle, and a new flight plan to Mexico City. Now that bit about 4 parachutes, that was smart, really smart. It made it seem like he might take a hostage with him, which meant the authorities couldn't just give him a dud parachute. Clever, right? Meanwhile, on the ground, the airline's president, Donald Nairop, had a huge call to make, and he made it, fast. The decision? Give this guy everything he wants. No arguments, no tricks. The goal was super simple. Keep everyone safe, avoid a catastrophe, and honestly, protect the company's reputation. This was not the time for heroics. It was all about full compliance.
Okay, and get this. This part is absolutely wild. While all this is going down, the pilots are just circling Seattle for 2 hours. They tell the passengers there's some minor technical issue. So the 36 passengers on that plane, they had zero clue they were in the middle of a high-stakes hijacking. None. And then, once Cooper gets his money and parachutes on the tarmac, he does something pretty incredible. He lets every single passenger go, unharmed.
So Cooper insisted that one of the flight attendants, a woman named Tina Mucklow, had to stay on board for the next part of the flight. And her her ability to stay calm was just absolutely critical. She kept the whole situation from blowing up. The co-pilot even said later, "I could not think of anyone that would have been better." She was just unbelievably cool under what has to be the most intense pressure imaginable.
All right, so the plane takes off again, now with a much smaller crew, supposedly on its way to Mexico City. Cooper tells everyone who's left to get into the cockpit and lock the door. And that's what they do. A few minutes pass, and then a warning light flashes on the console. The aft staircase, those unique stairs at the very back of a 727, it's been lowered, mid-flight. Then, at exactly 8:13 p.m., the pilots feel it. The plane's tail suddenly jumps up, and they knew he was gone.
So he's gone. What happens next? Well, one of the biggest manhunts in U.S. history. And this is where we see how the legend of DB Cooper was actually born from, believe it or not, a simple mistake.
So here's a really fun and kind of crucial detail. The man we all call DB Cooper, he never called himself that, not once. He told the airline his name was Dan Cooper. But a reporter, probably rushing to meet a deadline, misheard an FBI source or police officer and just ran with DB Cooper. And it stuck. That one little mistake is what created the legendary name we all know today. This is actually a perfect real-world example of something psychologists call anchoring bias. Basically, our brains have this funny quirk where they latch on to the very first piece of information we get. So once the media started screaming DB Cooper, that was it. That became the fact in everyone's mind, and it was pretty much impossible to undo. The wrong name became the right name for the legend.
So for the FBI, the number one question was simple. Did he even survive? The arguments against it are huge. He jumped into a freezing storm at night going like 200 miles an hour, wearing just a suit and street shoes. It really sounds like there's no way, right? A total death sentence. But, and this is a big but, then you have the copycats. At least 5 other guys tried a similar jump in the months that followed. And guess what? Every single one of them survived. So maybe it wasn't impossible after all. The FBI, of course, throws everything they have at this. We're talking one of the biggest searches in their history. They had the serial numbers for all 10,000 of those $20 bills, and they sent that list out everywhere. They're combing the wilderness on foot. They've got helicopters in the air. For all that effort, what do they find? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. For years, not a single one of those bills popped up anywhere. And then, silence. For 9 years. Until 1980. An 8-year-old kid is on vacation with his family, digging in the sand along a riverbank, and he finds these 3 bundles of rotting cash. They check the serial numbers, and they're a match. It's Cooper's money. But it was only about $5,800, and finding it there, so far from the likely drop zone, just made the mystery even deeper. It's the only piece of the ransom that has ever been recovered.
All right, so if there's a chance he's survived, that leads to the biggest question of all. Who was this guy? Well, he didn't leave much behind, but let's take a look at the few clues he did.
So what did the FBI have to work with? Not a lot. They found a black clip-on tie he left behind. They lifted 66 fingerprints from his seat, but none of them were ever in the system. And of course, they had the eyewitness accounts from the crew, which led to those famous facial sketches. It's that tie that's really fascinating, though. Decades later, scientists analyzed it and found tiny particles of rare metals, suggesting he worked somewhere like an aeronautical factory, maybe even Boeing itself.
And this is where you see just how frustrating this case was. Over the years, the FBI looked at hundreds, if not thousands, of suspects. You have guys like Richard McCoy, a Vietnam vet who pulled off an almost identical hijacking just 5 months later. But he had a rock-solid alibi for the night Cooper jumped. Then there's Robert Rackstraw, another vet with parachute training who looked a lot like the sketches. The FBI dug into his life for years, but never found that one crucial piece of evidence to link him. It was always like this. For every promising lead, a brick wall.
So after all this time, all these suspects, all these dead ends, where does that leave us? Well, after decades of chasing a ghost, the FBI finally decided to make an official call.
Finally, in 2016, a full 45 years after the jump, the FBI officially suspended the active investigation. They closed the case. Think about that. One of the longest, most intense manhunts in U.S. history just ended. With no arrest, no answers. It means the man we call D.B. Cooper, whoever he was, officially got away with it.
So, the official case is closed, but let's be real. The mystery is as alive as it's ever been. So what do you think? Did he die that night in the freezing wilderness, his secret buried with him? Or did he pull off the impossible, walk out of those woods and just melt back into society, living a quiet life with his fortune? The FBI couldn't solve it, so now it's up to us to wonder. What do you think really happened to D.B. Cooper?